In a world full of turmoil, despair, and darkness, you need to carry the light. Season 3 of the Get Attitude podcast is where we will ignite your mind, your heart, and your attitude. And welcome to the Get Attitude podcast, The Gap. My name is Glenn Bill. I am your host. We are in Season 3. Carry the light. And ladies and gentlemen, we have somebody in here that has the spirit, the inner spirit, the passion that it takes to carry the light into other people's lives. Let me just introduce him very quickly. This gentleman is the president of Success Enterprises, which means he's running Success Magazine. And Success Magazine, as you may or may not know, is the oldest periodical in the United States when it comes to personal development. Do you think maybe this guy might be able to help you get from who you are to who you want to be? He has also been put in charge of building and creating success coaching. If you're somebody that believes in the coaching industry, I'm telling you right now, this is a podcast. This is a person you're going to want to listen to today. And there's also Achievers All Access. I'm not sure what that is, but I'm sure he'll tell us about it. This man created a course called The Complete Guide to Activating High Performance, which has over 7,300 members and is in 120 countries. I believe it's been translated into 30 different languages. And he has a book called Live It, Achieve Success by Living with Purpose. Ladies and gentlemen, it's my pleasure to introduce you to Mr. Jairek Robbins, president of Success Enterprises. Jairek, welcome to the Get Attitude podcast.
Hey, thank you for having me. It's great to be here.
That's so good. We're so honored to have you. We always like to start our podcast by having our guests just tell us what your definition of attitude is. How do you describe attitude? And I'd love to know who your first attitude coach was.
Sure. I think attitude has a lot to do with biochemistry. If you look at how someone's mind works and the attitude they're choosing, a lot of it has to do with how did they sleep that night. If I could tell you, if you think of their best self, their average self, or their worst self, if you take the best human being in the world, and let's run a scenario real quick. Let's say they were captured and are a prisoner of war. And so what are the ways we're going to torture this person? They've been captured, they're a prisoner of war, and they're going to torture this human. And horrible situation to be in. You know, the first thing they're going to do to them is deprive them of sleep. So they're not going to let them sleep. This is psychological, mental, emotional torture. They're going to keep them up all night, blaze music, bright lights. They're just not going to let them sleep. Number two, they're going to limit their calorie intake. So they're going to starve them. They're not going to give them any food. They're not going to allow them to consume any calories. And then number three, if they really want to mess this person up, they're going to bind them and not allow them to move. I don't know if you've ever accidentally fallen asleep on your arm and woke up where you got the pins and needles. You're like, I mean, imagine that was what, 15, 20, 30 minutes max. Right. Imagine 6 days of having your arms tied together and then you try to move them. Yeah. It's not going to turn out well.
Sure.
And so for most of us, we call that hustling, grinding, being a CEO. Those are all the terms we use nowadays to describe psychological, emotional, and physical torture we put upon ourselves.
Yeah.
And so during that time of depriving yourself of the thing you need most, I have a weird experience that when you observe people that you torture, their attitude tends to get pretty soft, tends to get down, tends to get negative, tends to get overwhelmed. And I don't think it has to do with keeping a positive attitude at that moment. It helps when you do. But if you look at the biochemistry, what if we fed the person? What if we got them enough sleep consistently? And what if we got them moving at least 30 minutes a day, out in nature for 15 minutes, in sunlight for 15 minutes? What's interesting, if you measure their biochemistry, all of a sudden their chemistry creates their attitude. And the attitude tends to be pretty happy.
Yeah.
I mean, you get these delighted, happy, excited people, and life's good and things are amazing because they slept well, they ate well, and they moved.
I love it.
And they got some nature and they got some sunshine, and maybe they meditated and journaled something they were grateful for. And by God, all of a sudden, these are happy, healthy, strong, resilient people with great attitudes. And I look at the biochemistry to determine how do we create the right biochemistry, meaning what are the behaviors we need to put in place that'll create the chemistry necessary to produce the attitude we want.
Interesting. So good, and a very deep answer, and certainly, Jason, you have to admit, a very unique answer when it comes to attitude. So many people go right to the brain, and you went right to the biochemistry. Let me ask you this. Do you get into bad moods? Do you have good? And so how do you get out of your bad mood? And why do you think most people get in bad moods? I think you might have touched on that. But what's the mind hack? What's the behavior or biochemistry hack to shift your state when it comes to attitude?
Totally. So people looking for secrets and hacks, I would urge them to look for habits and routines instead. And so if you look for what is the habit, what's the routine, what is the ritual that maintains a powerful, positive attitude, or again, take it one chunk back, what's the ritual that maintains the biochemistry that leads to a powerful, positive attitude? And so we would look at the rituals, the habits, the routines this person goes through. And I would say, can we do some research? Can we talk to people like Dr. Huberman at Stanford Research, neuroscience, and say, Doc, is there anything proven by science that we can regularly do that causes a human being to be more mentally resilient, more emotionally resilient, better focus, better cognition, better memory, better the ability to make executive functional decisions of your brain? Is there anything? I mean, my God, there's been a lot of years of science. I hope they've discovered something. And he would laugh and go, of course. Let me show you. Now, I met Dr. Huberman because he was in San Francisco. We got invited to a private event at a church right near Dolores Park that a friend of ours bought. He invited the best and brightest of all the different types of friends he had. I met the PayPal guy there. I met people who were these weird, crazy, excited, weird as a nurturing, kind word to use about them, but they know they're kind of kooky, but they're creating these amazing concoctions to have the brain, function at the highest capacity. And then there was this amazing dude nicknamed the Iceman that showed up and threw us all in a baby swim pool filled with ice cubes.
Oh my.
This guy named Wim Hof put us in a ice bath for 3 minutes, and he sang Over the Rainbow on his ukulele while we were in there freezing our faces off.
Yeah.
And he sang to us, and we learned how to breathe, and we learned how to do an ice bath, and we learned how to access a different part of our body. And so I looked at that, and the fun part was Dr. Huberman stood up prior to doing it and put up on the screen, and he goes, let me show you what we're about to activate in your biochemistry. We're about to activate something called superhuman performance, meaning we're going to do some breathing techniques that are going to purposefully stress your body just enough to fire off your adrenal cells to cause your body to access all the benefits of fight or flight without any of the negative consequences or side effects.
Yes. Yeah.
And I was like, you could do that? How? He's like, lie down on the mat. Let me show you. And Wim stood up and he's like, breathe and breathe in, breathe out. I don't care how you get it in your nose, in your mouth. I don't care. Get it in, get it out. And he took me on a breath journey that I felt like my brain was in outer space somewhere halfway through the breathing process.
Yes.
Then he threw me in this ice bath for 3 minutes. And what they've done at Stanford Neuroscience is measure all the blood levels, and they can literally show you how the chemistry of your body is changing second by second as you're doing this stuff.
Wow, unreal.
And it makes you more mentally resilient, more emotionally resilient. It activates you. When you get out of the ice bath, you literally feel like you can run through a brick wall.
Yeah.
You talked about when I get a bad attitude, when I feel out of my game, what do? The first thing is breath work.
Great.
So I breathe myself back into a solid state and place. I have a friend named Dr. Leah Legos. She's based in New York City. She works with hedge fund managers. She works with NFL athletes, NFL coaches, Olympic athletes, pro golfers. All these people go to her, and she's a biofeedback specialist that works on breath training.
Yes.
So you go to her. She has a $15,000 regimen you work with her on. It takes 10 weeks to do it, and it requires 20 minutes of training in the morning, 20 minutes of training at night. And so you do this regimen, and it measures all your biochemistry, your heart rate, your sweat cells, all the stuff's going on. And as you're doing it, by week 7, it recalibrates your entire nervous system to calm. I told my dad this. I told other athletes and friends this, and they're like, bro, I can't be walking around on mellow yellow all the time. Like, I'm an intense human. I played in the NFL. Like, I need to go. And I was like, it doesn't take away your ability to go.
Yes.
It gives you a second option.
Yes.
It gives you the ability that when the event occurs, you can decide if you're all in, over intense, or if you pull back and you get to just allow it to occur without it affecting you. I had a client, I trained on this for over a year. He's a business owner in Louisiana. And when I first started with him, he lost his temper that fast. So bad attitude would be an instant reaction. Someone messes up, throws something. What are you doing? What's wrong with you? I told you 12 times not to do that. That kind of guy.
Yeah.
A year later, he texts me one of the coolest texts I've ever gotten as a coach. It said, Coach, my wife and daughter have gone to a family's house to make sure that they're safe as the hurricane approaches New Orleans. I have $60,000 of inventory possibly going to be lost in the next 24 hours. Maybe I'll lose my home. I hope I'll physically be safe. But I've got to tell you, I've never felt so calm and ready in my entire life.
Wow.
Thank you for the work we've done this last year. I don't know if I'd be able to handle it this well without it.
Interesting. And so you have obviously this gift of coaching, right? And we have a lot of NFL players. I'm a football guy, coach football for 25 years that have been on the podcast. We just had gentleman Gino Zanetti who started Wrestling Mindset, which was we talked about Wim Hof breathing. So Gappers, Wim Hof breathing. Make sure you look that up.
If you hear it 3 times and you don't do anything about it, I'll tell you, life will send you a whisper. If you pay attention, that's all you need. If you don't pay attention to the whisper, listeners, life is going to huck a brick at you, and it will hurt when it hits you. Something big, hard, and painful will happen in your life, and you'll go, my gosh, I should have paid attention earlier. If you don't get the lesson with the brick, life is going to burn your house down to get you to get this lesson. If this is the 3rd time you're hearing about Wim Hof and you haven't taken action, watch your head and beware that you don't get smacked with a burned out house or a brick to the head. Take action. Go do something with Wim.
I love it. And my very capable producer, just so everybody knows, we are now on Spotify. Our podcast is a vodcast on Spotify. We're one of the very few vodcasts on Spotify. So if you want to watch this, go to Spotify and watch us live. I want to talk about this passion for coaching. Was it natural for you? Was there a day where you woke up and said, hey, I think I want to be a coach? Here's what I want to know. Why don't people go to coaches, and why do people go to coaches?
Great question. So I don't know if it was necessarily natural. I train a lot of coaches, and I hear the things they say, like, oh, everyone asks me for advice, or I just love humans and love listening to them. My first, I'll give you some fun ones first. My first actual job was security at Blockbuster Video.
Love it.
I don't know if you could tell here, but I'm 6'4", 225 pounds. I was 5'9", 225 pounds going into high school. I was a big kid.
Yeah.
And so I could see over the shelves, and I was big enough that on a Friday night, kids decided not to steal a DVD when I was present.
Yes.
And so theft went down 70% within the first 30 days of me working there.
Interesting.
So apparently having me walk around on Fridays and Saturdays caused kids to make better decisions. Mm-hmm. That was my first real job. Fast forward, I took a job in our family's nonprofit. I love nonprofit work. I think that's the ultimate and the best work in the world, is the work that's dedicated towards helping and serving others.
Yes.
And so we help the homeless, we help youth leadership, we help feed people around the world, we help plant trees, we help fund facilities where they take care of kids in Cambodia. Like they help all over the world in that nonprofit. So I worked there for my first few years, and I loved it. I loved helping people. I loved making a difference. I loved the work we did. The only part I didn't completely love was the paycheck that came with it.
Yeah.
I was like, I mean, we do such great work in the world. Why don't we get great pay for it? And people were like, well, that's not why you do this work. I was like, come on, let's come up with a better story.
Right.
Why don't we get paid well and help people?
Yes.
And so I remember one time I walked across the courtyard in the company, and I walked to go see my friend Charlotte. She was in charge of the coaching department. And I walked in, and we were just, talking. And I asked her, I'm like, what do these people do? And she said, they're coaches. Like a football coach? She's like, no, not a football coach, but kind of. And I said, what do they do? And she goes, well, they help people. My ears perked up. I was like, help people? That's cool. And go on, tell me more. She's like, they help people have better health, have a bigger business, have better relationships, to make progress in their life. And everything inside me was like, yeah, and? Well, really? Like I was like, wow, they help people. I like helping people. I was 18 at the time, and I was like, weird question, but how much do they make? And she's like, well, here's kind of the earning potential of a coach. And I was like, oh, you can help people and get paid. Wow, this is my zone. And I literally asked her, can I do this? And she looked at me. I was 18 years old. She's like, sure you can, champ. And I was like, no, seriously, can I do this
now?
And can I come over? Can I migrate to this office over here and do this?
Yes. And
she smiled, and I think she was being nice. And she said, well, sure. And I was like, what do I got to do? And so luckily, because right now it's an unregulated industry, just about anyone could slap, I'm a coach. And I have teachers. I went and got a degree in psychology. I have professors who have doctorates in psychology or marriage and family therapists who've become coaches.
Yes.
Because they want to help people and earn significant income. And I was like, ooh, that's an interesting move.
Well, you can make more money than being a doctor in that field, right?
You can make more money than being in a nonprofit. You can make more money than being a doctor. You can make more money than being a nurse.
Right.
And I was like, wow, this is one of the higher earning potential positions in the helping profession.
Yes.
And so the number one thing that I do to weed people out of this profession when I train them personally is I ask them, what do you care about other than yourself? Mm-hmm. And if this person doesn't care about anything other than themselves, they don't have space in their own mind and emotions to be a coach, because coaching requires caring. Yeah. Caring for other humans, caring for their life, caring for their business, caring for their family, caring for their everything. Yeah. And so if you don't have capacity to care for them, you don't have capacity to coach them. But for those who do have capacity to care, then we look at what it takes to be a great coach. Charlotte, for me back then, required me to go through 250 hours of training before she allowed me to start coaching at 18 years old. Wow. I am so grateful for her, because I know a lot of people who went online and took, a weekend course, or didn't even take the course. They read a book and called themselves a coach. Mm-hmm. And bless them, I hope they help people, but my God, go get some training. And that piece of find a legitimate training organization that'll get you properly prepared to make sure you really serve. That's like saying, I watched a YouTube video on how to remove a wisdom tooth, so I'm going to go try it. Right. That is a horrible idea. I watched a YouTube video on how to do a heart surgery, brain surgery. Are you kidding me? Go get the right training. Go get the right practice. Become an apprentice. This is a missing thing in society right now. Yes. Apprenticeship has evaporated. Yeah. Apprenticeship. Find a master you can train with for 3 years, 5 years, 10 years, and master the art of the craft before you go do it on your own. I did that for, 6 years. I coached under my father's company, And then I spent another few years selling for them. So I spent about 8 years honing and mastering a craft prior to going out on my own and doing my own coaching. And I recommend that apprenticeship to everyone.
And it's ultimately the fastest way to mastery, period. Self-study isn't going to do it. It's back on the, so caring, when I talk about carry the light, and Jairek's coming on, like that word caring, that's the light that shines within you. That's the light that it sounds like you are pushing out there to all the coaches in success and the success coaching program. So Gappers, maybe you're sitting there going, I want to get from where I am to where I want to be. I want to get from who I am to who I want to become. And maybe it's hiring a success coach that will help you bridge the gap in your life. But more importantly, some of you I know, because you guys interact with me and I love you for that, are going, damn, maybe I need to become a coach. So how would somebody get into success coaching program as a subject? And how would somebody get into success coaching as somebody that goes, I'm tired of being a teacher and making $28,000 a year. I think I need to be a damn coach. Give us that. Give us that information.
So I would tell you, as long as you care. And so I would draw 4 concentric circles inside of themselves, like 4 circles going outwards. I would make the middle, the smallest circle in the smallest form, make that a color it whatever you want. I color it purple. Draw a line to it and write self. The next circle up, make it blue. And in that blue, draw a line to it and say others that can benefit me. Mm-hmm. Draw a line up, go to this next circle up here. Let's make this one. What did we have? We had green, blue. Let's make this one. We had purple, blue. Let's make this one green. Green is I care about all other humans, whether they benefit me or not. And then the final one, let's make it like turquoise, and we can say I care about all humans, earth, planet, trees, rocks, stars, the universe, and everything else. I just care about everything, which is awesome. Love those people. And so if I look at that, the very first question I would ask you is, what is your current level of caring? If you're not at least level 2, 3, or 4, work on your caring before you come and check out coaching. Maybe hire a coach and ask them, how do I care more about other people and how do I care more about life than just myself? Yeah. I know people love the concept of self-care right now. It's important. Do your meditation, do your workout. But if all you care about is yourself, you do not have the ability to coach or lead another human being. Right. And so if you're able to care about at least others in your family or community, or care about your country, or care about the globe and all humans, or some sort of level of caring beyond just yourself, then you can go to coaching.success.com. And there's a whole write-up on there of how you can learn about what our coaches can do for you, yes, how they can help you grow your business, how they can help you to build deeper and more connected community in your life. Also, how they can help you become, we call it live your best life, but become the healthiest, happiest, strongest. That's our main website, success.com. You might want to check out coaching.success.com. And then for people who want to become a coach and you do care, then there's a little tab right there that says certification. And right now, 4 times a year, we bring about just a small group of people together, and we actually show them all the tools on how to guide other people to success. Yes. And so if you want to become a certified success coach, check that out. Our September class is completely sold out. We just sold it out at a big event we did last week. And then our December one should have some spots open if you want to grab some. And with that, there's 2 benefits of doing it. First, as you learn the tools for coaching, I always recommend you use all of them on your very first client, which would be yourself. Yeah. Learn the tool, use the tool. Once you've used it and you see your life get better, you see your relationships get deeper and more profound and connected, you see your business grow because of it, then say, hey, I've learned it. I've lived it. I've done it. Now let me help other people through coaching do the same. I know I was talking earlier today. I help people grow their business, grow their investments. A deal just came through today for a multifamily we're looking to invest in. I'll be a partner with this group in $1 billion of multifamily once I connect the dots on here. And I'm like, ooh. Now, it's not my $1 billion that's in it, if you know how investing works. It's my portion that I've co-invested with them. But I can say psychologically, wow, I'm a partner in $1 billion of real estate investment right now.
Yes.
I can show other people at least how to get started.
Yeah. Yeah.
I might not show them how to go, the company, the group that we co-invest with has $9 billion under management right now and growing. Mm-hmm. I might not be able to teach them how to do everything that group has done, but I could at least show them how to build the money mindset. I can at least show them how to build the money machine to generate enough capital each year to be able to co-invest with big partners. I can at least show them the principles of how to choose a good partner to make sure that they're not going to lose their money in something stupid. I can at least show them the beginning of the process to get them off and running if they want to grow their investments or grow their funds in that way. But it's because I've done it. Yeah. I've earned the money. I've got the mindset right, I've earned the money, and I have the privilege of bank wiring large amounts of money to the right people and letting them multiply it for me.
I love it. Let me ask you this. 2 questions. Number 1, what's your favorite thing to coach? And number 2, what is the most profound success you've had coaching somebody? Who was it, and what was that all about? Your favorite thing to coach?
My favorite thing to coach is humans, for the most part. I like them. I tend to want to see them do better. And I'll give you an example. I don't have a favorite. Well, I do have a favorite topic. I love coaching small business owners. To be honest.
There you go. That's what I'm looking for.
It took me the last, 15, 13, 14 years of my life to figure out how to be really, really savvy and good at business.
Yes.
and so over 13 years of practice of dialing it in, figuring it out, hiring all the coaches for myself. I have 2 coaches right now for business. I'm in it. I do this stuff. I believe in it. I eat the own cooking. I always have multiple coaches active with me. I'm always applying this stuff. I'm always looking for blind spots. I'm always trying to be better.
Awesome.
And so after 13 years of doing that, I finally got to a place where my coach, who's been buying and selling businesses for 40 plus years, he's in his 70s. He just sold his portfolio for $100 million cash. He got an 11x multiple on a $10 million a year EBITDA. And I was like, damn, this guy really crushed it.
Yeah.
I like those numbers.
Cool.
He was earning $10 million a year, only working 4 months out of the year and golfing and traveling the rest of the year. I was like, he dialed this stuff in.
Yes.
And so it got to a point where he kind of gave me the nod after apprenticing with him for years. And he's like, you can teach this. You know what you're doing. Go help someone do it. Cool. I was like, are you sure? And he's like, yeah, it's time to fly. Get out of the nest, buddy. Go.
Wow.
And so I started leading other people through it. And we grew a business. The guy in New Orleans, we grew his business by 50% during the pandemic. We grew his profitability by 171% and his net profit by 195% by just moving 2 different levers very slightly. And so we're able to now produce the result for others. And it's a heck of a lot of fun for me. I have a business accelerator we run for small businesses and showing them how to do that. The most profound effect did not come from my one-on-one coaching. It actually came from the book that I wrote. I wrote that book about a 10-year stage of my life in my 20s when I was trying to figure out how to cast my vision, how to live my ideal day, how to focus on the most important parts of my life and catch traction and really get up and running and turn the vision into reality.
Yes.
And so I captured that 10-year chunk of my life in that book. I might write another one when I finish my 30s and do that about business and how to do all that. But that one was about just really living life to the fullest for my 20s. And that book circulated around the world, became a bestseller. And one day I received a handwritten letter from an airman who'd been deployed. And in the letter, she wrote, "Dear Mr. Robbins, I was deployed overseas. I've come home with horrific PTSD. Every day for the past week, I've had my firearm in my mouth, wanting to pull the trigger and not wanting to have to do this any longer. Someone gave me a copy of your book. I read the first 2 chapters, and I wanted to say thank you because it reminded me of the reason why I want to keep on living."
Wow. That's just so cool. And did you reach back out to her? Did you guys ever have a conversation? And
I did. I went and visited her on base to say thank you and pleasure to meet you. And if there's anything I can do to support you, let me know.
And specifically then, like, what was it that triggered the change in her? Like, was it like something you said? What was it in the book, the antidote, the story that she said, oh, what the hell have I been thinking?
It was helping her recast her vision.
Okay.
She was so caught in the PTSD, she was unable to see forward of how life might be. And so in those first 2 chapters, I focused on people doing a very simple process called identifying and designing their ideal day. Just one perfect day. Yeah. Where would you be? How would you feel? Who would be with you? What would you do? And then we multiply it by, everything between chapter 2 through, I forget how many chapters there are in my own freaking book. Let's say 2 through 10 is how to actually turn the vision into reality. And then the final chapter is how to extend the vision for 10 years into the future and say, hey, if you could turn one perfect day into reality, now let's multiply that day by 10 years and create a 10-year vision of your perfect day stacked up. And what would life look like when that happens?
That sounds like an awesome book. We have it up on our screen. If you're watching us on Spotify, it's called Live It, Achieve Success by Living with Purpose by the one and only Jairek Robbins. Now, it sounds like you're not even 40 yet.
I'm not. Only turned 38.
Well, good for you. Well, knowledge through the decades is going to be short with this guy. And so one thing we do as a technique on our podcast that I don't think anybody else is doing, we do this thing called knowledge through the decades as we're finishing up. And what I
only have 3.
I know. That's what I'm saying. This is going to be perfect. So it'll allow me to follow up. It'll also allow me to expand because considering your position and what you've done and what you've accomplished, you obviously have a lot to say. You've dropped some unbelievably great nuggets for our gappers today, and we can't thank you enough. So what this process is I ask you about the stages of your life from 0 to 30. We can maybe go to 38 if you want. And what's the attitude lesson that is out there for people to learn? Now, you probably don't remember being born, but my guess is you've studied birth and what being reborn is. And what I want to know is what's the attitude lesson of a newborn baby or of being born? What's the attitude lesson in your opinion?
Sure. If I could split that into 3 chunks,
please,
it might be helpful.
Yeah.
If you look at, let's say, 0 to 13, if that's enough of kind of 0 to 10, we could say 0 to 13.
Well, yeah, because I'm going to ask you your attitude lesson at 10, at 20, and at 30, just so you know.
Oh, perfect.
So
we'll do 0 to 10.
Or just 0. Like when you think about being born, like what's the attitude lesson of being born? Do you have children?
I do.
Cool.
I have a 2-year-old.
So, like, do you remember when that baby was born, what the attitude lesson was when that baby came out or when you came out? That's what we're getting at.
I got it. Okay. I actually have a weird attitude lesson as a father.
Good.
In the legal contract, we had a home birth, and the doctor signed in the legal contract that the father must catch the baby.
Oh, boy.
He was on his way out, and there was a brief moment where he was kind of in the middle of coming out, but not completely sliding out yet.
Right.
And the doctor said, "Okay, Dad, go ahead and pull your son out." And I looked at him. I had both hands ready, like catch. I play baseball, catch. I'm hands up. I'm ready. I'm fielding this thing. It's coming out fast. I'm going to get him. And he said, "Go ahead and pull your son out."
Wow.
I looked at the doctor and went, "You said catch, not pull." And he goes, "Help mom out, Dad. Pull your son out." I said, "Pull? I could hurt him." He goes, "You're not going to hurt him. He'll be warm, wet, and slippery. Pull him out. Let's go."
Wow.
And so I had the experience. I have a picture that I had the ability to pull my son out and hold him, and his little arms were straight up, and I was holding him the moment he arrived. It was a beautiful experience. I came out via C-section because I was entering the world upside down when I came through. and I was supposed to be an at-home water birth. And my midwife blacked out because she didn't know what to do when I was coming out feet first.
Yeah.
So I got rushed to the hospital and pulled out via C-section and put in an incubator. They forgot to plug the incubator in for some reason. And my father was actually holding me for the first so many hours of my life. And without him physically wrapping his hands around me, I would not have made it.
Oh, my mercy.
So his hands kept me warm as I survived my first so many hours of life there. Looking back on what I do know about that, I think our ability to support each other in setting up the right foundation from the beginning is a major attitude lesson. Meaning with young people, how do we help support them in building the right foundation? How do we help provide space for them to figure out what they need to learn to just get their legs underneath them? I know when my son was learning to walk, part of our opportunity was, how do we set up the environment around him that gives him the ability to fall, gives him the ability to learn, gives him the ability to stand up and fall over and stand up and fall over and learn resilience, learn effort without him being harmed in the process. And so I think the attitude at 0 is, can you set up an environment to give someone the opportunity to make enough mistakes that they learn how to get their feet underneath them themselves?
That is really awesome, right? And obviously it can apply as kids grow too. So I want you to think back to being 10 years old. You're third or fourth grade. And I'd love to know what happened to you at 10. Was there a story? Was there a teacher? Was there a bully? What was the attitude lesson for Jairek Robbins at 10 years old?
Sure. I had trouble in school. So I don't know if I was or am dyslexic, but I had trouble reading. I had trouble comprehending in third grade. I remember they made me wear special glasses with little pinholes in them and use a ruler to read line by line because I just couldn't get my eyes and brain to do it right.
Yeah.
I remember my fourth grade teacher, who was my best friend's mom, recommended that I get put in special ed because I just wasn't comprehending the information quick enough. And so I remembered those things as I was growing through third and fourth grade. I think what's most important at that level and at that chunk of life is learning how to create social bonds. Because all of us will have different skill sets. All of us will have different strengths and different weaknesses. But if we can learn how to create community, if we can learn how to create social bonds, then my weakness is someone else's strength and their strength is my weakness. And if we can learn how to work together, we can accomplish just about anything we want to accomplish. But it starts with the ability to build a powerful and proper social bond. So I might not have been good at reading, but the kid next to me might have been an ace at reading.
Right.
And they might not have been able to handle the bully, but I was big enough that bullies tended not to mess around. So we could pair up together, and all of a sudden we got a great relationship working there.
That's cool. Who was your best friend at 10? What was his or her name?
Eric, and I don't remember his last name. Eric Wong, maybe? I don't remember his last name. He lived in Monrovia, California. We used to go to his house, and he taught me how to play. I don't even know the name of the game, but it's the game with the little, these little black and white chips.
Othello.
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 Yeah, he taught me how to play that. So we'd go to his house and play that.
That's cool.
I was so jealous because his parents had him taking piano lessons every day. So I'd have to wait while he finished a piano lesson before we'd get to play Othello together. But I just thought it was so cool that he learned piano at that age and we played Othello, and it was pretty fun.
Yeah, friends at 10 or something. Do you remember, was there a teacher when you were 9, 10, 11 that made a profound impact on you? And if so, what was his or her name and what was the impact?
The teacher I remember was the teacher. She was probably 60-something years old. She was the one who was with me after school every day with those glasses on and the ruler trying to teach me how to read. Bless her heart, because I was probably not the easiest student in that. I'd get really upset and frustrated just because it wasn't clicking. It was not landing.
Yeah.
And I became a super learner later in life, but at that stage, it just wasn't my gift.
Sounds like she gave you a lot of compassion and patience.
I think she had a lot of patience for dealing with me and how I was behaving back then.
Yeah, I got you. All right, I want you to fast forward. Now you're 20 years old, almost legal to drink depending on what state you're in. I'd love to know if you remember your 20th birthday. What were you doing? You're obviously coaching people at this point, or very close to coaching.
Yep.
And when you think about being 20, like, what was the attitude lesson you took from being 20?
I was dialed in at 20. So I was going to bed at 10 at night. I was waking up at 5 in the morning. My roommates in college hated me because my alarm would go off at 5:45. I'd literally go for a run, come back at 6 a.m., 6:30, 6:45. I was making a vegetable juice with a juicer, like a in the kitchen of our apartment, which all my roommates were like, "What is wrong with you?"
Right.
Like, we're trying to sleep, dude. But I was dialed in. I was up at 5:30 in the morning, going for my run, doing my mindset activities. I was time chunking every day.
Whoa.
I was dialed into performance.
That is cool.
So I was going to school all day, and between my classes, I was sprinting home and doing my coaching calls in between, studying a little bit, grabbing a snack, going right back to class. I mean, I was literally dialed in. I knew how long it took me minute by minute to do my grocery shopping at Sprouts Market in Pacific Beach. I knew exactly how long it took me to get my laundry done.
Wow.
I had everything measured, tracked, and completely dialed in for every moment of every day of the week.
That is not an answer we get with most people in their 20s, but nonetheless, pretty fantastic. I'm trying to think where to go with that one. When you, what college did you go to, by the way?
University of San Diego.
All right. So do you still go visit there, and do you support University of San Diego?
I do. I sent them I didn't send them a check. I gave them a credit card a few weeks ago. I do support them.
Cool.
It is fun seeing people having that education opportunity.
Yeah.
That school is very special. It's a small private school on the hill overlooking the ocean. And I remember my dad came to visit for the first time, looked around. He's like, "Is this a school or a country club? Like, what the shit is this place?"
Are those are you the Gauchos? Is that University of San Diego?
No,
okay.
Toreros.
The Toreros. Okay.
And so it's a very small Catholic private school. I'm not Catholic, but I went there. I think one of my favorite classes I took was a required class for everybody to graduate, and it was world religions.
Yeah.
And so at a Catholic school taught by a Buddhist monk,
Yes.
It was a class on the major world religions. And part of the courses, we had to go sit in many other religious ceremonies
Yes.
to experience what it's like in their practice.
Yeah.
And it was one of the coolest experiences because I got to go sit in on temple and sit in on mass and sit in on meditation and sit in on all these different practices. And it was beautiful to see how so many different people practiced getting to a similar place in so many different ways.
Yeah. That's just, I'm with you. I did the same thing. I went to Catholic schools, and boy, when you started studying other religions, it just opens up the whole world.
Yeah. And then in that period of life, I also did semester at sea. So it was a cruise ship where you take your classes on board for university.
Nice.
And we went all the way around the world. So we did 10 countries in 110 days.
Oh my gosh.
And that was fun for psychology because I got to study collectivist communities where people are very similar and try not to stand out. And then we got to go into Japan, go into China and be like, oh my gosh, it's true. Like, it really does work this way.
Yeah.
I got to study I took a class on human sexuality. So how people flirt with each other in different countries, how people interact, how they communicate when it comes to mating and connecting and building, intimate relationships.
Yeah.
And then, it's very different in Japan where people put up a photograph of their rice cooker as their profile picture versus when you go to South Africa, totally different way you meet people and connect. And I was like, man, this is amazing.
Yeah.
But it's neat to take the book and make it into reality in front of you where you get to see it in motion.
Yeah, that's so cool. I saw in your history that you had done some volunteering in Uganda. We've had on our podcast the CEO of Feed My Starving Children. We've had a lot of groups that dealt with starvation that are third world country generated. I'd love to just, if you could, encapsulate the memory. What did you learn? How old were you when you were there, and what did you learn, and what was the attitude lesson about spending time and doing what you did down there? Just share with us a little bit about that.
It was right after semester at sea. I was probably 20 years old.
Okay.
Somewhere right in there, 2021. I took a trip around the world, came back to San Diego. USD is a very affluent school. And so after seeing how the majority of humans live in the world, I came home listening to friends talk about Ugg boots and TV shows and lattes. And I was like, dude, why are we wasting our thoughts on this crap? Like, I need to go help people that are hungry.
Love it.
And so I literally packed up all my stuff and was like, I got to go. And I looked online and found it was called Student Partnership Worldwide at the time.
Wow.
And it was an organization you could join to go live in a rural, underdeveloped region of the world and volunteer help. And you could help in the orphanages, you could help in the rural farms, you could help with medical skills. They had just lists of things they needed help with. And so I kind of like being outside, so I decided to help in the organic farming department.
Wow.
So I signed up and I moved to Uganda, and I got 2 weeks of training with the government on how to help under the current circumstances the farmers get the best response from their land. A few years prior, that someone from the UK and the US came over and sold all the farmers locally illegal pesticides that had been banned in both the US and the UK because they poison the land, poison the produce, and just kill off the whole situation.
Yeah.
They knowingly sold this to the farmers there just to try to get it off their balance sheet.
Oh my gosh.
And so these farmers used it, killed all the coffee plantation, which was a thriving business before, poisoned the land and screwed up the whole local economy.
Yeah.
So we were in there on behalf of the government working with them to show them how to re-till the land, how to reorganize their farms, to get the poisons out, to get it healthy, to use organic pesticides. There was people still living in mud huts at the time. And so smoke inhalation was a big cause of ailment and disease and the breakdown of the lungs and the body.
Wow.
So we were teaching people how to build kitchen stoves out of mud with a chimney that goes out of the hut so that they can cook without breathing all the smoke.
Wow.
We showed them how to build kitchen gardens. We showed them how to build barrel gardens. We showed them how to do all kinds of stuff. And so we were out there farm to farm showing people exactly how to rebuild their farm and rebuild their livelihoods and their business, hopefully.
And that's like real hands-on work. Like it certainly seems like it's
farming.
It's a metaphor for your life and like what you're doing now. It's like, I think maybe that could be your next book, like what I learned in Uganda. The people, their spirit, what was the attitude lesson? I'm guessing they weren't sad, they weren't defeated, they weren't downtrodden. What was like the emotional component of those people when you interacted with them? And did you feel like you were coaching them to stay positive or to look at things in a different way?
No, they were not trusting of us when we got there because the last group that went there and sold them a bunch of crap killed off all their land and business.
Wow.
And so
you're overcoming that.
Yeah, we showed up and they're like, why should we trust you? The last person screwed us.
Yeah.
And I was like, I don't know, but we're here to help. And if we can help, let us, and we'll show you what we can do. And so we had to earn their trust and we had to show up and really serve, not just try to show up and pretend like we're special in any way. So we showed up in service and we helped. I think something major that I learned there, and it was taught to us by the government there, is if you want to transform the village, educate and empower the women. And I heard it a bunch of times in training. Wow. But the real experience was, I remember it was it took us probably 20 or 30 minutes to convince a 55, 60-year-old male farmer to walk 25 feet down the road to come learn something.
Yes.
And it was, dragging a donkey. Like we were trying to convince this dude to come do something that he just didn't want to do.
Right.
And he wasn't entertained. He wasn't engaged. He'd sat there and rolled his eyes. Like, it was hard. I remember we had a meeting set with a women's group. And when we arrived, there was a blanket set out. There was like 20 women there. And as we went around the group and got to know them, one of the women walked with 4 children, carrying all of her tools and like 50 pounds of stuff with her for 5 miles that morning to be there at 5 a.m.
Wow.
to have the opportunity to learn for an hour.
There you
And
go.
I was like, damn, one of them's willing to do what it takes to make this happen. One of them is like a stubborn donkey trying to drag him down a dirt road that he doesn't want to go down.
There you go.
I saw the difference.
Yeah.
And I learned very powerfully. It's like, man, these women were dedicated to their villages to make their villages and their families better. And these guys were struggling to be even willing to listen.
Right.
And so I think I learned over there's power when you want to elevate the village, educate and empower the women.
Right. And so, Gappers, the question is which one are you? The woman carrying or the guy that's just planting his seed and not even watering it? So that's a profound story. Thank you for that. Let's move to 30. We'll go to 38, and I'll get you out of here. I need to respect your time. Do you remember turning 30? What was your attitude lesson when you turned 30? What was going on in your life, and what was the epiphany when you went, I do remember being 30. This is something I went through, and here's what I learned.
Sure. I think I met my wife 10 years ago today.
Today?
On this day. Yep.
Oh, my gosh.
And so 10 years ago today, I met my wife.
Wow.
And that would mean I was 28. I was 2 years away from 30. So at 30, my wife and I were, I think, just about to get engaged and within space of planning a wedding.
Wow.
I think one of the coolest things I learned in that period of life was to create a bucket list for each stage of life. And to say, hey, as a single man, before I met my wife, what is the bucket list of everything I want to accomplish, be, do, have, experience, develop, give, be a part of? What's the bucket list of everything I want to create and experience in my life before I'm engaged? When we got engaged, or when we were dating, I said, what's the bucket list of everything I want to see, be, do, have, experience, and create and develop and be a part of before we get engaged? And we did it.
Awesome.
When we got engaged, I said, before we get married, I'm in no rush here. What is your bucket list? What's my bucket list of everything we want to experience before we get married? When we first got married, I said, let's write out our bucket list of everything we want to do before we become parents.
I love it.
Now that we have one child, we've done the same. What is our bucket list of everything we want to do, be, have, experience, and create and develop and design before we choose to have another kid or choose to stay with one?
That's just such a great answer. We got a lot of gappers, including my son's, getting ready to walk down the aisle in 2 months. And
he better act fast.
Yeah, that's right. He doesn't have a lot to do. But, and this will probably air right around his wedding date. But I just think that's such a beautiful mindset, and it's such a beautiful plan. And it's certainly a way to bridge the gap from who you are to who you want to become. Plan it. Identify it. Write it down. Jairek, you're 38. You've just recently become the president of Success Enterprises, a huge operation. Obviously, I'm sure you feel enormous responsibility. Talk to our gappers about this. You're taking on a pretty big deal. You're evolving this whole thing called success coaching. You're going to be growing it. What's the attitude lesson with those gappers out there right now that are taking on an enormous responsibility, that are starting something new, that are evolving? What's the attitude you're taking into this? I know you're going to be successful from this interview. I know you're going to take success to where it needs to be. I'm so excited that you're doing that. But what's the mindset? What's the training? What's the coaching for our people that are going to do something phenomenal in their life?
Sure. I think one of the most important things, so before I stepped over to do this, I had properly built multiple businesses of our own, and we were in a position that we didn't need to do this. Doing this technically doesn't make a whole lot of sense financially for us, and doing this doesn't make a whole lot of sense time-wise for us.
Right.
And so doing this was, my first response was thank you, but no. Right. When they tried to bring me over, I said thank you, but no, I'm busy, I'm focused, I love what I do, I'm good. I appreciate it, happy to contribute, but I'm not going to come run it.
Sure.
I had a mentor of mine say, whoa, you better rethink that one. That one's worth doing. And I looked at him, I'm like, seriously? I've just optimized the hell out of my businesses. Like, I was working 3 days a week, 4 hours a day. I had it completely dialed in. We have multi-million-dollar businesses. Like, I'm good, man. I live on an island in Puerto Rico. We live on the beach. We surf. I'm dedicated father and husband. That is the majority of my time, effort, energy, and thought each day.
Wow.
Why would I mess this up?
Right.
And he said, well, I'm going to give you some old man wisdom, and you can either take it or not take it. But what you want to do and how you want to help people, you will be able to help more people by doing this than not doing this.
Yes.
And I went, he hit me in my sweet spot.
Yeah.
Seriously? Oh. And what's interesting with that is it's true. I looked at the trajectory of where I'm headed. I looked at the impact I'm making. And I said, if I choose to combine efforts with this organization, what kind of multiplier will it have on the positive benefit I can have to society?
Yes.
So by choosing collaboration, how will the positive difference multiply?
That's so
there's
good.
no way I could look at that equation where by not choosing it, did it multiply any better than choosing it?
Yeah.
And I went, gosh darn it. I mean, I fully optimized the heck out of my lifestyle, and I was solid financially, and our businesses are pumping along. But golly, I'm about to mess everything up to be able to multiply the powerful positive difference we can make in people's lives. And so that was the 38-year-old lesson, is be willing to shake up the snow globe and mess up what was damn near perfection, in my opinion. To have the ability to serve others.
Yeah, and again, maybe it was a blessing. Maybe there was a higher power working within you for the past 6 years to get you dialed in, so you could do what you're doing now. Like if everything wasn't perfect, you may have said, "There's no way I can even do this." So. Yeah.
Which is cool, because our other businesses are up and running, and I have capacity to come and do this. Yeah. So you're right. If it wasn't dialed in, there was no way I could have done it. And truthfully, if someone would have caught me, I've been working with my mentor for 8 years now. If someone would have caught me 8 years ago, I didn't know what I didn't know. I didn't have the business chops to be able to do something like this, if I'm honest. And so all the experience of living it, applying it, dialing in other businesses, helping coach and dial in other people's companies, got me ready that you can hand me a company like this, and I know what it takes to dial it in.
This has just been so great. We're with Jairek Robbins. He's an author, he's a speaker, and he is the president of Success, or the CEO of Success Enterprises.
President. Gotta be careful. Glenn is still technically the CEO. I would never want to
Mea culpa, Glenn. Mea culpa, Glenn. Right, exactly.
Glenn's the guy. I like him. He is a big thinker. Yeah, I had a vision to get this to 70, 80, 90 million a year. He took me, we went to his house a few days. He shook my snow globe, and all of a sudden the vision has capacity to something around 2 billion a year. And I was like, how did he do that? Yeah. I couldn't sleep for 2 days because my head was, I slept great, but my head was tingling for 2 days based on the way he helped me see a model. It's exceptional how big he thinks.
Yeah. The PDF you're getting says 1 billion. So, there you go. I got outdone by 1 billion, which is fine. So we always like to just take this opportunity to close the show for you to talk directly to our gappers, right? To the person that's sitting in a coffee shop to the person that may be sitting at a bar or on a beach or at a laundromat that's trying to bridge the gap. And basically what I just want you to do is just talk to them, speak to them directly on your hope for them, your hope for their life, and any positive message just of hope that you would like to give our listeners today.
I think when it comes to a positive message of hope, take some time to figure out what has to happen to be able to answer yes to the following 3 questions. What has to happen for you to feel that you can say yes to I am enough, I have enough, and I'm loved enough? And I think when we take time as humans to fill our own cup and we can say, listen, as a human being, I have enough to live the life I want to live. As a human being, I am loved enough. My cup is overflowing and I'm pouring love onto others all day long. And as a human being, I've decided I am enough by being who I am each day, not by what I do or what I accomplish, but just by being a human being. And once you can check those 3 boxes, you see human beings elevate to a point where they just want to help serve and care for others. And if you see any peculiar behavior from people, it's generally either they don't feel like they have enough, they don't feel like they are enough, or they don't feel like they're loved enough. Yeah. And if you can help them fill those cups instantly, you'll get a better version of them.
Man, that is so good. I want to thank you for bringing caring to the podcast. I want to thank you for carrying the torch forward and bringing the light to the Get Attitude podcast. Jairek Robbins, thank you so much for your time today. And we will be following success.com. If you need a coach, go to success.com, get your coach. If you want to start a career in coaching, go to success.coaching.com. To find out more about our coaching.success.com, maybe we're going to have it up. We'll have the links up.
There you go.
And maybe you can become a partner with Jairek and what he is doing. This is Glenn Bill signing off on the Get Attitude podcast. Thanks so much, Jairek. We will talk to you soon.
Thank you.